This is the Real Footy Podcast. Coming up, the biggest contract call of 2025 has finally been made with Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera deciding on his playing future. Adelaide star Izak Rankine is under investigation for making a homophobic slur, and the race for the 8 heats up with 1 round left. All that and more right after this.
Feeds a hand pass back to Harley, kicks wide, and Harry Sheezel's got it. It's a half century of a different kind of Bell revival. 50 disposals for Harry Sheezel.
Directly in front. Gunston is putting on a show. He's kicked 6 as Jack Gunston. Still waiting for someone, anybody. Milera pulled it out of there. Dawson takes the mark. Dawson takes the mark. Collingwood are on the wing without a prayer. And in the city of churches, Adelaide are now waiting for September.
Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Gleeson, and before we bring in Caroline Wilson, let's talk some breaking news with Peter Ryan. Pete, the news all St Kilda fans have been anxiously waiting has arrived about 1 p.m. on Monday with the signing of Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera for 2 more years at the Saints.
Yeah, exciting news for Saints fans. Wanganeen-Milera has re-signed for 2 years. He will be the AFL's first $2 million player. It's a big relief for the Saints teammates of his and also the club that they've actually locked him in, but it comes at a hefty price that probably they weren't scheduling or weren't factoring in at the start of the year. He's had a brilliant year. He had big offers from Port Adelaide and Adelaide, which he's knocked back, and he's there for the next 2 seasons.
Do you reckon they've created their own inflation, or do you think that the season he's had, being out of contract, of a contract of this size would have come for him from those 2 clubs regardless?
Well, he's been brave in that he held off because there was an offer in pretty early for him to remain at the Saints, and he decided to.
And it was 7 figures, but
something like that.
About that.
Yeah, close, under 1 million.
Yeah.
Well and truly. But then 2 things happened. His form exploded. He kept his nerve and wasn't really giving much away about whether he wanted to stay. He had, 3 things. He also had Port Adelaide and Adelaide prepared to make big offers to try and attract him back to Adelaide, South Australian as he is. And he also had, and the whole football world knew, and his manager, that St Kilda was making a big offer to Tom De Koning from Carlton of $1.7 million a year. And when anyone and everyone watched the 2 players' performances over the year, everyone knew
better than the other.
Wanganeen-Milera was a lot more. So he was in a good negotiating position, and to be completely fair, he extracted what he was worth.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a bit academic now, but it did make you wonder when they put that offer to De Koning that it elevated the sort of there was parity demand. You sort of think if they'd offered, in another word, if it was 1.3 they offered De Koning, then maybe the market starts around that price instead.
Yep, I agree with that.
But I think his form overtook all of that.
It did take over that, and to be fair to St Kilda, I don't reckon any of us and their list management would have predicted that Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera would be in the top 5 players in the comp at the end of the year and the prototype for a modern AFL player. And we also probably didn't think De Koning's form would slip as it is. The problem they had was they were offering big money, 1.4, 1.3 to other players, midfielders and so on, and it wasn't getting it done.
Yeah.
So they had to offer a price that was so outrageous, whether it's a St Kilda tax because they haven't had success, whether it's because people don't like going there, or what the story is, but they've had to offer inflated prices, and it's meant they've had to play.
That's a De Koning. I mean, when I say a separate conversation, we've already linked them.
Yeah.
They can't be unlinked, I suppose. Yes, they do have to pay more. And we've spoken before that there is a logic to the St Kilda offer for De Koning, as outrageously big as it is. If you bring a player in as a free agent and you effectively trade out potentially Rowan Marshall, if that's if it goes that way, then you're bringing in a player for nothing in a trade term, but you're getting a pick in for the other player going out. So that could be part of the logic, but there is definitely a case that they have to pay more as a club, and a ruckman is one of those that you pay They've decided to pay. You normally pay less to, and comparatively, and they're actually paying more.
This is a relief for St Kilda, but it would be a bigger excitement if you'd locked in for a long-term deal. It's a 2-year deal. It's a big. The 18 million's the salary cap, so they've got potentially, if DeConning, which we assume goes to St Kilda, they've got $3.7 million wrapped up in 2 players for the next at least 2 years, and then. If Wanganeen-Milera's form continues, where does his next contract go?
Well, that's it. Is he certain to get $2 million or more next time from one of the Adelaide clubs? But I think that the big difference is that all clubs, St Kilda and the Adelaide clubs, saw more in his game than anyone had seen before. Like he hadn't really ever displayed, even through juniors, an aerial game. Then he takes that great couple of marks in the win over Melbourne. It's like, he's got it there, and you just realise, there's so much untapped in his ability.
The other thing that it does is the clock starts ticking on St Kilda now. If they get DeConning, they get Leakalia, they've locked in Nasiah, they've got 2 years to be at least in the window of contending for a premiership, so they can convince him.
Unless, do you think this squeezes players out? I mean, you're now talking. If it's 1.7 that ends up being for DeConning, and you got $2 million, if it's a flat $2 million, say.
Yep,
on
at least. It's definitely 2 million.
You've got a fair chunk, Leakalia.
Yep.
That's a big portion of your salary cap.
No, it is. It'll squeeze out players, but players that they probably aren't overly keen on keeping if they can find. They've got Dougal Howard, Rowan Marshall will be interesting.
Well, Windhager's one of those that's wondering if he was on their whiteboard.
Windhager, yeah, exactly. Windhager is so tight to Nasiah, I should say. I reckon that would. He would be a lot more likely to stay now that Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera stayed.
I think so.
And if they can lock those guys in, then they start to go through their list management where they think, well, this player we need and the other player we can afford to let go, and won't be losing players that they don't necessarily want to hang on to.
Well, it changes them now with this one signature from... You looked at it and thought, if they just bring in DeConning and it costs them Marshall and they lose Wanganeen-Milera, potentially if then Windhager or someone else goes, it looked disastrous. Yeah, now absolutely. It doesn't. Now it looks like, well, okay, all right, they've paid overs.
Yep.
They're going to pay overs, assuming DeConning goes there. They're paying way overs, but they've got this player.
Well, they haven't had a player leave because he doesn't want to be at the club, and that's a good thing. And I would imagine at the Brighton Hotel in the next couple of days there'll be Ross Lyon with Gubby Allen.
A couple more on his shoulders.
We'll have Carl Delina on his shoulders. There'll be 5 of them standing around dancing.
They were probably there last night if they.
And to be fair, I reckon it's good for St Kilda and good for the competition that someone has stayed at that club, because you can actually have an argument about St Kilda and how hopeless they've been in many areas, but their supporters deserve a little bit of a change of luck.
And if it was just players walk out, and then we have to overpay players to come, that's smelly. But if it's we've kept a player and we've brought a player in, it reframes the image of them. And
they took a punt. The previous list administration, the previous lists, they picked Wanganeen-Milera.
Yes.
That was a brave pick.
Yeah. It's a good draft, that one now. Had he chosen to go, it would have been an incredibly difficult trade to do. It would have been a very entertaining trade period to see how this deal would have been done.
Well, do you reckon they would have gone to the pre-season draft?
Given that he stayed, I think that he probably wouldn't have had the appetite to put his club through that, the one that he was leaving. But there had to be the spectre of that hanging over any negotiations, because if it was Port Adelaide, it wouldn't have happened if it was Adelaide. But if you chose Port Adelaide and they just said, well, you've got to hold firm, we can walk you.
His manager, Ben Williams, is not someone to be trifled with.
He's got a good deal.
Yeah.
Who's the next big cab off the rank for the trade period then?
Well, Harley Reid's going to be the other question as to whether he remains with West Coast. He's still got another year left on his contract, so he can remain unsigned. But if they can extend him out, that's probably the next question. And then there's obviously some of the clubs that were poorer performing clubs, such as Melbourne, that'll be interesting to see what they do.
We'll break from that now, and we'll pick up our earlier recording with Caroline Wilson. And Pete, you had information for us on Izak Rankine and the alleged homophobic slur from the game on Saturday night.
Well, at the moment he's subject to an AFL integrity investigation. It was kind of probably, 7 o'clock last night that it started to filter out that there was some potential for an investigation. It seemed that the clubs had been speaking to each other through Sunday, had been aware of it early. The first call I made to the AFL, the person I spoke to wasn't aware of it at all. So it was starting off with the clubs and then was going to AFL Integrity. And the matter is...
This wasn't a self-report then?
It didn't appear to be. It doesn't appear as though it's been a self-report. It appears it's come from the Collingwood side. And
we should timecode this conversation. We're talking around lunchtime on Monday. So we still haven't ascertained whether the allegations are correct. But in these situations, it doesn't look great for the player who's been alleged to have made the homophobic slur. Yep. And, Pete, the history of this in recent years is that the suspensions have been expanding, not decreasing.
Well, it started with Jeremy Finlayson at Gather Round last year, 3 weeks, and then Will Power was 5 weeks because the AFL thought, how stupid can you be to use it?
But they had also said, their defence was, they said with Powell, well, it's 3 weeks. Sorry, with Finlayson it's 3 weeks, but, don't take that as the next person gets 3 because, we're going to stamp this out. And so they went even heavier with Powell, which I think they've created the right for their back with what the penalty has to be.
Yeah,
and then Jack Graham,
Lance Collard, Riak Andrew, they've all been suspended for, Jack Graham
got a discount for self-reporting.
And was still 4 weeks. The other 2 were 5 weeks. And Rankin, if he's found to have used the homophobic slur, and look, it's going to be a difficult case if he denies it because there'll be people saying they heard it. And that's going to be an interesting one.
If there are people as opposed to a person, if there's more than one that heard it, then he's got no real chance of getting through it. If not, if it's just one person against that and he says, no, it's a word that sounded like that, and it sounds like it's the same word that's been, used in all cases, a Scottish bundle of sticks.
Put it this way, Collingwood was speaking with Adelaide and it was taken very seriously, so I don't think there's something that's been dismissed that he might have said it. So in any doubt, and it's just a matter of establishing whether there's any mitigating circumstances that might actually reduce or give the AFL an opportunity to reduce it, given that they're finished top 2 at least, so they could just have 4 more games left for the season, so it could be wipeout. Even
if you take a line through the others, you would say it's 5 weeks that he gets. If you say, if Graham, as the most recent, got a discount, and that was a stated discount for self-reporting, it was 5 down to 4. You have to say, if this wasn't a self-report, then and there's no other mitigating circumstance, this is a 5.
So the AFL have struggled with these situations. I mean, one of the issues with Finlayson was the time it took for them to reach the decision. Remember, it happened on a Saturday night. And I don't think we had an answer till Thursday. Paul Marsh, then running the AFL Players Association, was scathing about the lack of rigour and structure around the penalties, and that's still an issue with the PA, but also about the time. Now, Stephen Mead was involved. I guess he'll be involved this time around again. And Integrity is involved, so that's Tony Keen's department. Yep. And Greg Swan, who's the only newcomer into this field. And I guess Laura Kane as well, because I think Integrity is still...
Yeah, I'm not sure Laura Kane will be involved in this. I'm not sure.
Okay, so Greg Swan has made it clear that he has some issue around some of these...
I think when he came in, he sort of was making comments around how he didn't think all of these had been handled that well. And he thought that there was just... I don't think he thought a lot of from the Willie Rioli and through, that they could tidy that up. I would find it very difficult to think that you could recalibrate penalties of this type mid-season.
Well, what about when Andrew Demetriou took over, showing my age here, head of footy at the AFL, he changed the rules around suspensions during finals. So if you king hit someone in a grand final, you would get an extra
double
week
points.
or 2. Yeah, double points because it was in the finals. What about reducing it
the other way around? It's never worked the other way around. It's always, if you do something in the finals, we know that if in a prelim final there is a greater loss if you miss a grand final, but it's not treated that way. It's a game.
I think there'll be public outcry if he does get found that he's said what is alleged and he doesn't get 5 weeks. But I do note what Stephen Mead wrote in their statement when Will Powell was suspended, that they do not consider they are bound by the level of sanction that it has previously imposed of similar incidents, which gave them a bit of an out.
a cop-out of the highest order.
Correct.
Am I the only one who feels a bit uncomfortable about the fact that you can shame women to men on the footy field and there's never been a suspension? You can make a comment about someone's partner or sister or daughter or mother, and yet a homophobic slur is a...
I think we all feel uncomfortable about the fact that it's so poorly defined in terms of what's actually acceptable and unacceptable. Now, it's pretty clear if the alleged word that's used, which has been used previously, in this case, that it's offensive, but where do we stop and start is the point you're making.
Also,
it makes me...
Yeah.
I look, and the Age wrote quite strongly under Wendy Tui's byline about Snoop Dogg last week and his history with violent and anti-women lyrics.
You've got first of all, you've got players being suspended for longer for making a comment on the field about sexuality, but not about women. But then knocking someone out and they get 3 weeks. The AFL is promoting Snoop Dogg. They're bringing in, they're tolerant of Snoop Dogg, but not tolerant of one of their own players. So the entertainer that's hired, as opposed to the entertainer that's playing on grand final day, what can be said by Snoop Dogg? I mean, some of the lyrics, some of the things that he said over the time, and we're happy with that.
I know for a fact that people who work in gender-based violence, and Respect Victoria being one of the leading agencies, are thinking, do the AFL understand what gender-based violence is and all the elements around it, or do they just don't care by hiring Snoop Dogg?
Well, what they're also doing is running a series of ads which have been promoted and created by the Family Court under Justice Will Alstergren, and which these ads have been running at NRL and AFL games, and I think Scott Pendlebury and a few others have become involved in. They're going to run them at every final. These violence against women advertisements, which have been put forward by the Family Court. They take it so seriously, and yet they've got Snoop Dogg.
Exactly. This is the biggest
I realise I'm
outlier.
going
Well, the
off track
hypocrisy
here.
of the AFL. Music's music, and you don't want to become one of those, stop the lyrics people. But the AFL hiring Snoop Dogg is going to land them in a lot of, it leads them to be accused of hypocrisy pretty easily.
I put my hand up. I hadn't been aware, because I just don't know enough about him. I knew about the jail sentences and the drugs and the weapons. I actually wasn't aware of some of I know that's bad, but once I became aware later last week.
I like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, his music doesn't do it for me.
But that homophobic's been running through rap music since the early 90s. They were nowhere in a footy show. But people love that music. But you do realise when you think about the gender-based violence stuff that it does have a cultural impact.
He also proudly
unhealthy.
smokes dope daily, and we've got an illicit drugs policy.
He actually employed a guy who smoked joints, rolled joints for him.
Anyway, getting back to Izak Rankine, do you think Adelaide can win the premiership without Izak Rankine?
Yeah, they can.
They'll
get Rochelle back.
I don't think so.
In the second week.
You don't think so?
No, I think he's the X Factor star player that actually turns games. He won them the game against West Coast. He kicked a vital goal on Saturday night. He's a player that worries the opposition more than any other player. I actually think Thilthorpe
and
Dawson
Hawthorne too.
and
I thought
Rankin
he was instrumental in that game as well.
Are their best three players by a mile.
Thilthorpe, Rankin,
and Dawson.
Yeah, I thought you'd left Dawson out.
No, and Dawson are their best three players by a mile, and the rest are good players. Saligo's a good player and so on, but they're not game breakers.
Thilthorpe, for me, will be the one they can't win it without. So, yes, I think they can without Rankin, particularly if they got Rochelle back. He's not as good a player, but if they get Rochelle back in the second week of the finals, albeit he'll have been out for 9 weeks or something, he'd have to come back in as the sub and managed minutes or that sort of thing. And when I say second week, it could be that they win the first week. So then you're questioning, does he come in for a prelim final, having not then played for 10 weeks? He'd probably come in on limited minutes and as the sub, but you would bring him in. It'll be harder. You don't lose one of the most dynamic players in the competition, and make it easier. So, look, it's just one of the.
It's incredible, isn't it?
So ahead, and we'll know more as the days unfold.
Yep.
And how Adelaide plan to tackle this. just talking about injuries going into finals, when the AFL website lit up on my phone early on Monday morning, it said Brisbane could lose this player for the whole year. And then I saw it was Eric Hipwood.
Sorry to be Hipwood fan.
Well, no,
what's wrong with what's up with Eric Hipwood? Because I know Jared Berry had a.
Eric Hipwood got hurt, as it turns out.
His knee, he was struggling.
He's in doubt for the finals.
Right.
I know that. Well, of course,
and the
it's
odds
a problem.
shortened, did they?
Calf injury puts Key Lyon in doubt for finals.
Right, calf.
It's a calf injury, and he played the second half, played through with the pain in the second half, and obviously, look, they've lost Answorth and Payne, who are huge. They haven't really had Coleman or McCarthy all year. No. Berry also got hurt, didn't
Berry's
he? Berry's
got a dislocated shoulder.
Lockie Neal will come back. They needed Lester
Henry
back.
Smith will come back.
He may, yeah. So they're still my favourite to win it after the weekend.
I think they're the best team in it too.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
they're not the most consistent.
Right. No.
And you know what? It's probably better that they don't get a home final at the Gabba week 1 because they're more certain. I fancy them against Geelong at the MCG.
Yep.
More than I probably would.
Geelong, look, you come out of Sunday a bit more bullish about Geelong because they've actually played a good team.
Geelong are going well, but Brisbane match up well on them. They've beaten them both times this year, I think I'm right, and they've also beaten them in the prelim. So Geelong would be confident against Adelaide, probably even money against Collingwood, and then Brisbane Giants.
We'll just backtrack a bit to that. We've discussed the Adelaide game without discussing the Adelaide game. It was the biggest game of the round because it was the top of the ladder against the team that had been the top of the ladder. They hadn't beaten them since 2016. I think the last time they beat them, Collingwood, they had Eddie Betts, Charlie Cameron, Jake Lever, and Mitch McGovern all in the team. All that went off and had careers.
And Rory Atkins.
And Rory Atkins. So you've got, that's an incredible history. And then for it again, I mean, the last 4 or 5 games had all been decided by an average of 4 points. This was a 3-point margin. It was an exciting, tense game without being a good game. It was, scrappy. It was just all contests. Were pretty ugly, but they were good.
It was engrossing. And
it was engrossing.
Collingwood was good too. I mean, I was a bit concerned about Adelaide and that tactically I don't think they'd play that way again if they meet Collingwood again, would they?
They wouldn't have a number behind the ball, you wouldn't think, although you never know.
Well, they were matching Collingwood's. Collingwood dropped one back because they were worried about the 3 talls and then when the weather turned as well, and that ended up the misleading thing in that game, I think, was the inside 50s. Like, yes, they were way in Collingwood's favour, but that only indicated where the ball was basically, occupying the ground. Like, that was just the territory reflection. It wasn't the level of threat. Collingwood's forward line is a real worry for them. And
they scored less than their inside 50s.
Yeah.
Particularly because Thilthorpe was having he looked tired. Taylor Walker was, showing some real leadership, I thought, in standing up and
I thought he was a bit lucky. He got out
of
he was cleared by the MRO on that push on
didn't even allow a free kick.
No free kick, and I thought, gee, he's in trouble for that after the Dylan Shield as well. And I mean, there was no injury, but
what's going on with Dan McStay?
Oh.
Who? No, he's struggling, but.
Do you drop him?
No.
You
too structurally important.
Cox. He's just the game. I don't think those sorts of games suit. He's not a massive pack mark. He's not like you can drop it up there and Harry Mackay or Thilthorpe will take that sort of mark.
And he plays second ruck and he's better value than Cox because he can play in defence if something happens. I think the thing that it showed up was that Adelaide's midfield is not that good. They're okay. Even though the inside 50s, you're right, they're a lot of rebound, but Collingwood matched them in that area, and Collingwood's midfield's not unbelievable either.
Well, it's Dawson, and then it drops away. And so Soligo was, probably their second. He's their second mid, and he probably needs to be their third or fourth.
But Cameron killed O'Brien. He had a great game.
Yep.
Darcy Moore's still got a fair way to come back, and Jeremy Howe was a huge out for Collingwood, which, if they played again, I think would make a massive difference.
Yeah.
And Bobby Hill, who obviously has only played a cameo role in the last month or so, or 2 months, doesn't sound like the coach is super excited about him coming back anytime soon.
Well, he was sort of a bit vague on his time frame, wasn't he? Because given that he missed the time for the personal reasons, then he missed 2 weeks ago for gastro, then he missed this week saying, he wasn't properly fit after the gastro and he hadn't recovered. And now can he get fit enough for this week? Well, I would think that you would give him this game, and even if you have to sub him out or whatever, you'd play him against Melbourne, and then there's the week off and get him in for the finals. Because Bobby plays in a 3-point game with that many inside 50s and that much territory. You would think that Bobby would conjure a goal where no one else could for Collingwood. You know, where they're going in trying to kick to a 5'9" bloke in Jamie Elliott and expecting him to outmark. There were a couple of. What do you think of the crow throws?
No, the NRL was really good on Saturday night. I switched over. Just caught a glimpse. Well, it's weird that players do that. I find it weird. I mean, even Izak Rankine said that he couldn't believe that he'd thrown it to him.
He expected the whistle.
He was waiting for the free kick. Yeah.
It obviously happens a lot.
Did poor umpiring change the result?
It changed the result of my mood watching the game, but I don't think it changed the result. No, I don't like people who think that umpires change results, because the whole game changes if a free kick's paid or
if a goal's paid or it doesn't, and then the flow changes. Yeah.
We have been asked actually to call it who's going to make the top 8 and the top 4 before we go into another game.
Yep. Okay.
So who's going to go first?
Well, I'm happy to say my top 4 will be Adelaide, Geelong, Brisbane, Collingwood, because I think Collingwood will beat Melbourne, and then I think the Giants, Gold Coast, Bulldogs will beat Freo, and Hawthorn will finish 8th because they lose to Brisbane. And that's assuming Gold Coast win both games and the Giants beat St Kilda.
Okay, so well, I agree with you about the top 4, and Brisbane is still my premiership favourite.
Yep.
But yeah, they'll finish in the bottom of the 4. And Geelong, probably should say a word about Geelong. When you look at everything they've been up against this year, the off-field stuff, they've managed to guide Bailey Smith, who could win the Brownlow, probably not, and Tyson Stengel and his issues through the year. They've had the unspeakable tragedy that's befallen the Selwood family, and I know they have had an easy last 6 weeks, but they had some pretty good wins early on.
A remarkable footy club, really.
They are extraordinary, and no wonder they've re-signed the CEO and about to re-sign the coach for another 3 or 4 years.
4 years, I think, Hocking. Yes.
Yeah, Hocking for 4, and I think Scott will be on the same timeline. Andrew Mackey's a good operator, but he's still very young. So I think you have to say that what Steve Hocking's done since he's got there, it's obviously Chris Scott is.
They've done well in that they've got Max Holmes at pick 20, Ollie Dempsey, who's a rookie or whatever he was, late in the pick, Sean Manor, who every club could have had, whether he'd be as good if he didn't go Geelong, Shannon Neal's pick 33, replacing Hawkins.
Well, I haven't even mentioned their list management and their recruiting.
That's incredible, really, to slot that into a group.
What they've
contend again.
And they only just lost
role
to
players in Dangerfield and Cameron.
No, I know that, but that's
Smith.
100% right. That those guys make them better.
But just to finish on what you said, I agree with your top 4, and I think Freo misses now. What about you, Gleeson?
Well, I think the top 4, I think Hawthorn's still a chance of getting in and Brisbane being pushed to 5th. Brisbane can beat Hawthorn and then they go up into that. Hawthorn can beat Brisbane and go up into that. I think Collingwood will beat Melbourne and therefore those 3 will be in there. I'm just a bit uncertain about Brisbane and Hawthorn. And the others, I think Fremantle misses and Gold Coast eventually get in. So, again, Fremantle could miss with 15 wins.
Or the Bulldogs miss with the biggest percentage in the history of the game of a team that's not made the 8.
Yeah. No, I see the Bulldogs getting over that.
Beating Fremantle. The good thing about that game is you have to win to make the 8.
Yeah. It's actually it'll be a really good game. I think Fremantle will be tough to beat.
Well, I know without going back over the misery of the rest of the season, but the last 3 weeks have actually helped salvage that shocking 10-week run of
still
games.
been some dreadful.
Still been a flat season, but at least there's some. It's
yesterday at Marvel
reignited the moment.
Not exactly Captain Excitement, I can tell you.
You were covering it.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Harry Sheasel made it.
That wasn't at Marvel. That was in Tasmania.
I'm just trying to think the round itself. Harry Sheasel sort of lifted it by.
No, that was good.
54 touches against the poor old Tigers.
No, look, North needed that win for many reasons. Richmond had enough. Richmond's big incentive was that they want North to finish as low down the ladder as possible because they've got their first round pick.
Yeah.
Still a pretty good pick, but it would have been even better had Richmond managed to win, but there was no sight of that after the first quarter. Is Jack Gunston an All-Australian?
You'd have to think so. It's sort of him. So Cameron's a lock, isn't he? And Jeremy Cameron. And you'd have to say King.
Phil Thorpe.
I'd actually favour Phil Thorpe over King. I don't know the numbers, but as far as impact in the game, not just, counting goals, Gunston's right there. He probably is. If you're going to take 3 talls.
They'll include Gunston.
Well,
it's a good selling point.
He'll get into the squad, obviously.
Yeah.
And what an amazing achievement when he looked all but finished in his last year at Brisbane. And I did. I criticised Hawthorn for the romance of bringing him back.
That's right. It felt like they just sort of
How dumb
agreed
does that
with
criticism
his...
look now?
I know.
No, but to be fair, no one would have thought he's 60's most in his career. And even Sam Mitchell's repeatedly said they just had him this year, him and Luke Bruce, to coach the other players, basically. And he's come out
he managed
with 60.
to coach him to get out of his way.
Yeah. They're playing 4 talls, so he wasn't in their plans. And even actually, I spoke to Tom Barrass the week before, and he said he wasn't on the whiteboard when Sam Mitchell was making the pitch to him. Jack Gunston was nowhere to be seen. So he's done well.
That's a great story.
And particularly that he then, for this top 4 fight, it's him playing against Brisbane too. And, no Eric Hipwood, no Brisbane.
No, I
Poor
know.
Old Eric Hipwood.
I know.
He's played in a premiership last year. He's carried the team this year.
Does your heart not go into your mouth every time the ball comes near him? No, mine does.
Yes, it does.
Thank heavens for Logan Morris.
All right, we'll take a break there. Come back and talk about the Mumbai pitch.
We're online all the time. Just search Age Real Footy on Facebook or Twitter.
With Blakey coming in from the side, Stanley had been able to shed his opponent, would have been a mark otherwise.
Good crowd in here this afternoon. Stengel, he's dangerous. He's had his opportunity. They gave him an eternity, and he still danced it into a goal.
Well, welcome back. And if we left you hanging about the Mumbai Test pitch, this isn't a cricket podcast, but Chris Scott, very sort of tangent on the matters cricket.
He got asked about the state of the ground, which has been controversial all year, SCG, and he said it in parts. It looked like the Mumbai Test match, which
and
I
Mitch
assume
Stark replied to him, "No, it doesn't."
No, and Wankhede Stadium is actually a great stadium of the world, and I think it was a bit unfair to compare it to Mumbai, but SCG,
at a time when the AFL are trying to attract more of our. I mean, the Indian population,
maybe that's the way to do it. Come and watch them play it.
It was fine. The comment was fine, but it was just Mumbai would have been a flat, dusty old track back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So I can see what he was saying.
Well, it is a disaster, and
yeah.
it's been an issue for months, and there clearly has to be something.
Yeah, there were the potholes. There was
something's got to give over the off season, surely. Because
yeah, absolutely. He said if people, Chris Scott's comment, wasn't it, that if people think that's suitable for AFL football, they don't know what's suitable for AFL football.
Yeah.
The reality is, though, Pete, what can they do? What could they have done?
No.
Where could they have gone? They're not going to go to NG Stadium.
No, and it's already been criticised once. The curator was completely aghast at the criticism, but it does look ugly and it does look substandard. But as you say, what else are they going to do?
Well, Roy and HG went into bat for the curators and said we should have a curator appreciation round because they only get criticism.
Oh, please.
Can you quite funny.
Is there anyone more boring about their craft than curators?
No. Well, their job's making grass grow. What about
more sensitive?
What about the Cats win, Pete? You had a look at it. As we said earlier, they've had a soft run into the finals and This was
on
the biggest
paper
test.
Was their toughest clash, and they found themselves 3 goals down. And then look what happened.
Well, it's a good confidence boost for them because although they thought they were going okay, they were obviously flat against Essendon, and this gives them a sense that they're actually playing some reasonable football as well as getting all their structures right. And Tom Stewart got back into form, which is good news for the Cats. They needed that, and they got through with their other players. They're going to have a fit list. They've only got, well, I think even Cam Guthrie played VFL on the weekend. I reckon they've got about one injury.
They've managed people like Dangerfield really well. Mitch Duncan, obviously, just nice to have. And what about the taggers? Because Izak Heaney, who just tore Brisbane apart the week before, he was angry all day.
Yep, Mark O'Connor took the job, the Irish leader, who's highly regarded down there, and Ocean Mullen took Goulden. They're both Irish, both taggers, and both really good form doing the job, and it's unusual for Geelong to have taggers. They haven't had one since Ling. Yeah. So they've got two blokes who can shut down players. It'll be interesting to see how they use them.
Yeah. I thought Neil was, in that first quarter in particular, when they'd been jumped, he took a couple of marks and then converted. You thought he's sort of teased and flirted a bit, but this was a more authority performance, I thought.
He's another one that's 200 centimetres, and he was an 800-metre national champion.
Yeah.
Like, he can run. They've got some players down there.
So getting back to the taggers, I'm fascinated to hear you say that. So if, as I'm predicting, it's Geelong-Brisbane in week 1, who do you tag from Brisbane?
Zach Bailey. Potentially he's one from watching Friday night's game.
Well, you would have thought Lachie Neale.
And Lachie Neale's the other one. Yeah, absolutely. When you put Oisha Mullion on Lachie Neale, he's tough. He's a tough Irish footballer who couldn't care less what's coming his way. He's not going to be intimidated at all. And Mark O'Connor could play on Zach Bailey.
Looking forward to it.
Mark O'Connor's nickname's Merrick because he got introduced to Tom Lonigan when he first arrived and said, "Hi, I'm Merrick." And he heard it as Merrick and said, "Who the hell's Merrick?"
Carlton belted the power, and it comes up now. Well, there's two elements of this. One, we look at Ken's last game and Boak's last game on Friday night, but the Blues actually took something out of that, I thought.
Well, they took Harry Mackay out of it.
Yeah.
He was fabulous.
And Sam Walsh.
Sam Walsh. It's so, look, and they haven't had him. He's such an important player. I know there's been a lot of talk about this, and Harry Mackay doesn't have Mackay. I always get that wrong.
I think.
That he hasn't got much value as a trade, whereas Curnow does. And if you're going to start rebuilding, I reckon you trade Curnow, who's made noises about not wanting to be there.
No, I think you keep them both. I think you wrap your arms around Charlie and get him, you start winning again. Yeah, I do.
I'd trade Curnow too. I wouldn't trade Curnow. I'd think about the offers.
But
hear offers for Curnow.
You don't start out from a position of let's get rid of Curnow. You start out from a position of, well, if you come to us with something irresistible, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
But you do that with most players.
The two of them occasionally just seem to. I haven't seen them together take a game apart enough to convince me you keep them both.
Not for a couple of years. They did for a while.
Yeah, but not for a couple of years. And I don't know if Harry would enjoy being the man. I mean, he's obviously had his issues, but if he can keep his confidence up and play like that.
Yeah, there's lots of ifs. I don't know. It'd have to be something pretty extraordinary to give up Charlie Curnow.
No, he's a great...
we've discussed this before. It would require him wanting to go to Sydney and Sydney wanting to send Warner to Perth and West Coast being wanting to trade their first or second pick if they get one for Allen. You go, if you're presented with pick 1 or 2, then you might do it. You might look at it. But that's very hypothetical.
I mean, sorry to interrupt you there. Let's face it, they have to get Charlie Curnow and Sam Walsh fit. That is their main objective.
Well, and Curnow. Curnow had 3 surgeries in the off-season.
Those two guys have given less than optimum because of injury. It's not their fault, but that's what they have to
and the management's been at fault to a large degree, but they seem to be happy with the team they've got there now.
You talk about the rebuild, you say that. So if you get, as you say, you get Walsh back on the field and you get Mackay back on the field. Mackay, I can't remember you're right. I can't remember what it is. Should know that. Jagger Smith comes in. Yeah, he hasn't played a game, but all indications are he'll be a good player. And so Smith and Walsh coming in changes the amount of run they've got. I don't see their position as being as dire. Like they'll get a very good pick in for losing to Koning, and
they've been pretty
potentially
impressive.
Something
Carlton
for Silvani.
I mean,
They've held it together when it could have really unravelled.
And you know, they had it dreadful. I mean, the season was a disaster at the beginning, and it's ended really disappointingly in one sense. But you would think for Michael Voss, it's a slight fillip for the team to play the way they have since they announced that he was staying. Yeah. And moving on to the other situation at Port Adelaide, will a club ever again announce a succession plan like this?
Not like this. Not unless it's the at the instigation of the senior party, the senior coach. You can't impose it on the senior coach and expect that it's going to work well.
Would they have been better to pay him out? Because it would have taken a payout.
I think so.
They've done it before and annoyed the AFL, paid out senior coaches. They did it with Mark Williams. And I remember Mike Fitzpatrick, I think, personally rang the club and blasted them. He was running the AFL at the time, or the commission. He liked blasting people from time to time. But I just, when you heard Ken at the end of the game say, look, it's been tough. We're all tired. We're this, we're that. And I heard Connor Rosie interviewed last week, and he said, look, we're looking forward to a change of direction.
Yep.
It's a cautionary tale, really, isn't it?
Well, they're looking forward to change of direction because they haven't known what direction they were in from the moment they said, this is this plan that we've got. They finished in the prelim final last year, and then they come into a new season and they're saying, oh, we've got a new coach coming in 12 months' time. Well, what does it mean for this year? Are you actually still having a crack this year? Or is this part of a new era, a new chapter that we haven't yet started? It left them in limbo, and then you're looking at one, not the other, for your lead as players. You sort of, who do I listen to most?
I was initially in favour of it, thinking it wasn't the worst idea, but I think the announcement of it was what ruined it. If they could have kept it sort of quiet for 15 weeks.
But look, Peter, I mean,
I was wrong in my assessment.
I backed it. You know, I've got huge respect for Koch, Richardson and Davies, even though, you know, David Koch has made life difficult for Ken Hinkley at times. I think the Warren Treadray spectre has been a massive distraction for the club, and obviously it's toxic between him and the coach. Then you've got, you know, a month or however many weeks ago, they sacked Chad Corns, who was, you know, pretty disappointed, I gather.
And he's a fabric sort of guy. The players like Chad.
Yeah, and had to be convinced to stay, to see out the season. And you've got, you can only imagine that it's been frustrating for Josh Carr.
Oh, yeah. And Ken's done a remarkable job to keep his kind of good humour most of the time.
But he ends what's been a pretty impressive tenure at the club with his worst year.
His worst year, yeah. And you say, was that created by him or by the management of it?
What he does do is he leaves them in particularly when you consider when he took over, in at least a fighting chance.
Oh, absolutely. And that is the thing.
They've got a great young list. I mean, they haven't had Bergman or Horne-Francis in recent weeks. And Butters, well, who knows what's going to happen with him, but he's there next year. Connor Rosie's playing with a broken hand.
Yep.
He can only be better.
Georgiades.
Yeah.
I reckon that the thing that they'll won't notice until he's gone is how significant Ken's been in attracting players to that club as trades and free agents. It's been a massive, massive asset for them.
Well, as we said, when you players all talk about and coaches talk about, he's the place better than when I arrived. Well, he arrived with tarps on the seats, no one turning up to games, club broke, players just walking out because they didn't want to be there. And what have they got now? They've got an enviable club that people that can attract players.
Although I can appreciate the Port Adelaide supporters might got a bit sick of losing prelims after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but gee,
hell of a lot better than finishing the bottom.
And those two prelims, it could have gone either way. I mean, it's a bit like Nathan Buckley. And as you say, consistency, he's been absolutely brilliant. But we interviewed him pre-game on 3AW on Saturday, and he took full responsibility.
He's great. He's been a really good coach. It's just like you can imagine supporters. I have some empathy for decent supporters who just get sick of it.
Okay. I reckon they've treated him appallingly.
Fair enough.
It's so funny. This guy's been loved by the whole footy community except for the team that he coaches.
Okay, so we're winding out of this season and looking into finals, but there was the start of the AFLW season as well, and it started well.
It did.
The Collingwood Carlton game was interesting because of the names involved and Ash Centra being the number one pick. Two pretty lowly teams that probably won't be up there again this year. So as a choice of the first game, it was a little odd. But the round in total
it was
did
good.
show and showcasing new rules. It was clearly quicker.
It's quicker. It's still the ball. Their kicks are still floaters. The comp's much better. I encourage people, and I know it's a different medium, but the AFL website's got 4 minutes of highlights from this round, and it is great footy. And one of the goals that Cynthia Hamilton...
you said you've seen maybe the goal of the year.
Yeah, it is an unbelievable goal from the Sydney player, Cynthia Hamilton. It's absolutely worth watching, and ranking it at least in the top 5, if not the goal of the year from any comp. I still worry about when it gets to October, how tired you are of football. As much as you want to support it, the thought of going out to the
I don't like the fixture. No, I don't understand it. I don't like it.
But the footy's good. That's all they can control.
And Ash Centra's bounce.
That was
I
good.
love that.
Yeah,
that little clip. I mean, I know it's sort of not the game, but when you're seeing Sam Mitchell trying to do it out on the field before the game,
Nick Dacos
in the room,
and Darcy Cameron,
you're going, it's great. Yeah. Like all of these all these stars are going, oh, I haven't seen that done before, and they try and do it themselves, and that was good.
That's why we haven't seen it, because it's bloody hard to do.
Yeah. And it was an eye-catching first game for well hyped for Ash Centra, but
she took a beautiful mark, kicked a great goal with her first kick. It was good. Chloe Malloy was back. She's obviously a star of the competition, and some of the young. There was a painter who was playing for West Coast, who's a top 10 draft pick.
Oh, and the woman with the best name in sport, Zippy Fish.
Zippy Fish was excellent. It is the best name, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Let's just hope people tune in and turn up.
We'll take a break there, come back with quick questions.
Get access to every episode as it drops. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
His father played 186 games for the Dogs. There he is. Matthew will be proud of this moment if he can kick his first. Croft round the body. Jordan Croft, father, son. Father loves it. Son enjoys it. And everyone's around him. That's a fantastic moment for the Dogs.
Well, welcome back and straight into quick questions, and we'll keep them quick for those who are needing to get off to work. Will the Dogs play Sam Darcy, Jordan Croft and Aaron Norton as tall forwards in the finals, Pete?
Yes, I reckon they will in week 1 of the finals. Jordan Croft was one of the highlights of yesterday's game, and they will take the punt with him.
Okay, Caro.
They have to make it first, but yes.
Yeah. Should Justin Longmuir reach back to the future for Nat Fyfe?
No, I wouldn't go anywhere near Nat Fyfe. I mean, this is a guy who got injured in the warm-up at half-time a few weeks ago. I don't mean
Sorry about your injury.
I don't mean to be mean about a great champion of the game, but,
But he's done.
The end has come.
Yeah. Pete, you'd agree?
I can relate to him getting injured in the warm-up.
Well, you can't relate to warming up.
No, exactly.
Should Peter Adams take the Swans contract offer or look elsewhere, Pete?
Should stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a perfect foil for Brodie Grundy, and Peter Adams doesn't strike me as the main man at any club.
And finally, and I've got a strong personal view that this should happen. Should Essendon Carlton be free to fans on Thursday night? They've suffered pain all year, and all footy fans have suffered pain all year having to watch the two of them on primetime TV.
At the risk of being Terry Wallace, Jeff Poulter, they should actually get a grant $5 each to go.
I was going to say, you took my line.
Yeah, or free pie and free drink when you get there. I mean, something back to the fans.
Who would have thought, if you'd been told at the start of this season that Channel 7 would actually refuse to broadcast that game?
Yeah. But they should give them something, shouldn't they? Like, even if it's sort of a cutesy thing, that is recognition of, you've had to get through all these.
What, a Geelong membership?
Gold Coast
Cruel.
membership. You don't agree?
It's a great idea. It would be a great initiative. Why not?
Thank you. All right, that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks to you both for joining us. And thanks also to Channel 7 and Fox Footy for the audio we've used in this episode. If you'd like to get in touch, you can do so via email, realfootypod@theage.com.au. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. The Expert Tips podcast will be back on Thursday, which will make good listening because it's tight at the top. So we'll catch you then.